So hello everyone. So as you know, if you have any questions, you're welcome to pose your question.
Hi, Magdi. It's Esther.
Hello, Esther.
This morning I woke to a strange dream. It wasn't so strange as that. The strange part was that I felt very identified and at the effect of what was going on in the dream and the people that were in the dream. And I was aware that I was at the effect of everything, and I felt like, like I didn't know anything, and I just stayed with it and stayed with it, and inquired until by the time I woke up, I was back home and it was clear. And I realized from that experience how everything that comes, including dreams, is is a gift really to help clarify. And I don't know what my question is so much, is just whatever you can say about that.
At some point in our journey as truth lovers, everything is an opportunity pointing us to presence, pointing us to the causeless, clarifying to us the impermanence and the emptiness of things. Demonstrating to us that the clouds that appear are empty and do not touch what you truly are. While when the veils of identification and the veils of ignorance are thick, we have a tendency upon experiencing a certain contraction, upon experiencing a certain sense of threat, a personal threat, that triggers the tendency to defend oneself, blame the other, regret, tendencies that do not bring any clarity. In the depth of our identification, that reactivity is strong and wins the battle in a way. But along our journey in inquiry and in contemplation, the tendencies to maintain a safe personal self weakens and no longer interests us, since we understand its futility and the emptiness of such endeavor. And our love for truth is reinforced by our inquiry, our interest in truth. And there is a clarity, the clarity of discrimination between the illusory, the feelings and the emotions, and the real, that is untouched by events and thoughts and situations. And the less we engage as a personal self, the less we defend and promote or try to safeguard our thoughts and feelings. the less ups and downs we experience.
My screen is not showing clear and it dropped me out. Is everybody else getting, is it, everybody's okay?
Is the screen okay up with, I see you popping in and out. Maybe you want to rejoin something. Are people experiencing technical difficulties in this meeting?
Magdi, I noticed that your video is a little more blurry than usual, but I'm not having any troubles with the audio or anything else.
Same for me. Just what Holly said. Yeah.
Yeah.
The video is a little bit blurry, but I can hear you fine.
Okay. Could be the signal because it's slightly, the weather is overcast. Maybe there's some rain. It could be, I don't know. So Tara, I would say, why don't you leave the meeting and join it again? Maybe that's the solution. So when you are on the right path, you will find that the old disturbances that you used to experience, you'll be experiencing them less and less frequently and with less and less intensity. And in your night dreams, the personal self, the identification, will manifest like it manifests in your waking dream. And you will find that it has less and less of hold over you. Over time, that's how it will be. And at some point, the peace between the disturbance is a larger and larger field of peace. And you will find yourself less and less disturbed. I'm not sure, did I address your question, Esther?
Magdi, you know, I'm beginning to see what true freedom really is. What true freedom really feels like through this growth.
Yes, it's our natural way is peace. What we are is the freshness of being. It's peace, tranquility, well-being, the ground of being. Like if you looking at you look at the spring, the source, the water that's flowing out of the spring. When it comes out of the spring, it's flowing and moving. But if you go to the source of the spring, it's completely still. What we are is this seamless presence, you see. It is known as Satchitananda, the I, aware I, the aware presence, knowing beingness. That's truly our nature. It's not some object that is existing in time and space, you see. When you ask yourself, what is it that is real in my experience, then you come upon this transparency, this awake, aware, full emptiness. It's empty because it's not a form. It's full because there is nothing that is outside of it. It's full of itself. It's complete within itself. Everything that appears within it, out of it, as it. And this transparent presence is what perceives, what speaks, what is. So in the direct teaching is it pointing directly to that presence, to that transparent presence, the I am, the I that is not any form, that is not born, that is not a form, the I, the formless self. That is peace. That is the bliss of the self. To know yourself is a direct knowingness. Because you are that. You are the self. And if you follow thought, you're following images. And the image that you perceive via the thought as the thought is not the source, is not the transparent presence. The thought appears within, out of that transparent presence. So thinking or feeling, all of that is downstream from presence, downstream from that transparency of being. So the pointing is a direct pointing to that which precedes thoughts, precedes sensations and perceptions. The formless self. And as you contemplate the I am, it establishes itself as your true nature. It reveals itself to be what you are. And you're journeying away from the self, from the I am, becomes less and less frequent. Then you will find that the transparency of being is more and more your experience rather than the thoughts about me, my past and my future. And in the absence of the contemplation, in the identified state, we're experiencing thoughts and concerns about me in time, me tomorrow, me yesterday. And it is like you are looking at the sky through a peephole, a teeny tiny hole in the paper, in the paper you're looking at. You're not perceiving the piece of being. Your perception is limited to the belief that I am a body-mind character. And as a body-mind character, then you are haunted by your concerns about your life, about your future, about your children, about your partner, about your money. You're haunted with these concerns. And when you try to solve these problems by thinking and efforting and trying to find a worldly solution, you will not succeed because the separate self is still on board, healthy, and it will present you with the next problem, and then the next problem after that, and so on. So we get wise to this process, and we return to the direct pointing of the I am, that is genderless and formless presence. Going back to presence is a very powerful and direct sadhana, because presence is always present. Always, you can count, you can always rely on presence. The complete intimacy of it, because you are that. So a student of the way is watchful about dissipating their energy in the world, in family, in work. So because we do have to relate with family and work and etc. Then we bring our contemplation into the world, into our life. In the midst of our activities, we are contemplating, what is it? And the contemplation takes many different forms depending on the various situations and activities in your life. For example, with your family, children, partner, parents, you're watchful. You return over and over to the understanding that my children or my partner do not belong to me or to the world. They are actually manifestations of consciousness. Everything is a manifestation of consciousness. So you recognize that everything is at that same level of consciousness. Everybody is equal as consciousness. And so you relate with in the world with everything as manifestation of consciousness. So, for example, your children are equally your children than they are the children of the universe. They're cosmic children, cosmic manifestations. And your role is to understand that. In understanding your relationship, which is a relationship of equality, respect and recognition of the sameness of everything, the sameness in the substance, the one substance of all manifestation. Then you have an even-handed way of relating where you're not just taking or giving, rather you are being given, and whatever you're giving is being given through you. Anyways, I'm getting on a tangent here. Yes, I'm glad about what you are sharing, Esther.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Magdi,
Hello, Zoe.
could you speak more about what that dissipation of energy, like specifics?
Yes.
Thanks.
When you are relating out of the belief that you are a person, that you are a limited personal self, a man, a woman, whatever gender you are, already 90% of the energy is dissipated. Everything we do from that assumption that I am this body-mind is on behalf of that body-mind. Everything we do out of the belief that I am a person is meant to benefit, aggrandize, serve this person. When you look at your life and your thoughts and your activities, you may notice, and I am talking generically here, not to any particular person, I'm not talking particularly to you, Zoe, but generically, you will notice that you are serving your person. You're trying to protect your feelings. You're trying to justify yourself. You're trying to maintain your image, etc. Your belongings, your family, your tribe, your beliefs, your clan. And whenever in your life, irrespective of whatever is happening, you bring in the contemplation of truth. You bring in what am I truly? What is the reality of my experience? What is it that is real, that is unchanging, that is eternal? What is it that is true, absolutely true? Then you are utilizing your energy in the right direction. And when you are living out of your understanding, that all is the self, that I refers to presence. It does not refer to anything that appears. And that I is a universal I. It's not I, Magdi, or I, Zoe. It's just I, period. I, universal I, refers to presence awareness, the transparency of being, the emptiness of form, the fullness of being, the fullness of awareness. Whenever you are living out of that understanding, you are not dissipating your energy. Because the light of understanding is guiding you, both in your life and also guiding you deeper and deeper into the stabilization as what you truly are. So noticing the tendencies to defend oneself, to blame the other, to gossip about our neighbors, to aggrandize ourselves, to try to avoid what is arising by thinking, by debating, noticing these tendencies within ourselves. Reduces their effort, reduces their strength in dissipating you, taking taking you down the whirlpool of thoughts and emotions. The impression that things are personal and that there is something at stake requires your contemplation. Because the personal impression, the impression that there is something at stake and that there is something happening to me, when it's unexamined, it grows into a very powerful monster. But when you examine what makes anything personal, and you look closely at this question, what makes the weather personal? What makes thoughts personal? What makes perceptions personal? What makes events personal? You look closely at that question. You will find that they appear not to me, that all appearances do not appear to me. They appear to awareness, impersonal awareness. Mistakenly, we refer to impersonal awareness as a personal self. Mistakenly, we say, oh, what is appearing, the thought that is appearing, the sensation that is appearing, we say it's appearing to the body mind. While in fact it is not appearing to the body mind, it is appearing to the transparency of being, the transparency of awareness. And in fact, it is appearing out of that very awareness. Since when you contemplate the reality of your experience, you will only come upon one reality, which is the reality of awareness, consciousness. Thus, given there is just one reality, the reality of awareness, of presence, of consciousness, how could there be anything outside of it that appears to it? Whatever appears to it must therefore be arising within it, to it. So whenever you are living without the contemplation of truth, you are 90% or 95%, maybe 99% dissipating your energy, wasting your life. And so the spin of the wheel of samsara goes on endlessly until you stop it. You turn your attention towards truth, towards the contemplation of what is real. Otherwise, your conditioning is so powerful, it just goes on, spinning you, kalpa after kalpa. And unhappily so. So in everything that you do, invite yourself to the contemplation of truth in the midst of your activities, in the midst of your life. To look at whatever is arising and ask yourself, what makes it personal? What is this concern about past and future? Me in time. And if those concerns about me in time are arising, they're arising for you to contemplate them. They're not arising in order for you to solve a problem. Look what we are doing on this planet to each other. How we've been living for the past thousands of years. Empires and conquests and slavery and abuse. So it's very clear. It's very clear for us how it is. What are we here for? What is it about? If it's about your personal self, it's just spin and spin. It's been about the personal self for way too long. Any questions?
Magdi?
Yes, hello?
Hi, this is John. Namaste.
Hello, John.
I'm just kind of fearful to even say anything, but that's the person. Anyway, um, typically, well, let me say, it does seem, whether it's my imagination or not, and I am speaking from thought in person, that certain things come up, including fears and thoughts and feelings and sensations, and I see them in the flow and in the stillness, and so they don't have quite the intensity that they could have, they could have. Um, I will say that this weekend, though, I had some thoughts come up, and I immediately projected into the future and the past, as you said, and great anxiety came. And um, eh, there's enough now experience to know that um, at least the mind can say that there is a possibility that these are not permanent. You know, they're impermanent.
Right.
But of course, then that's a hope of something to become something else. And so I see all that. So sometimes there's just a letting go of letting them be, and letting them mushroom up and do what they do.
Mhm.
Um,
It
and
could be a hope, or it could be a simple observation, or there is sufficient data available to know that stuff is going to come and go. You see what I mean?
yeah,
It may not be
yes, yeah.
personal hope. It may be, okay, well, maybe it'll get better in 5 minutes. Maybe it's just going to be until tomorrow. Who knows? It's okay.
It was until tomorrow. So, and it's best to be honest about it, and for me anyway, especially if I'm speaking with you, and so, but I also got uh, uh, what a habit now is to is, like you say, is the contemplation, but sometimes even the mind is seems to be controlled by this anxiety, by this habit of anxiety, by this whatever it is. Something seems to be almost embedded um, in there, and so instead of really fighting it,
Mhm.
um, sometimes there is I like some of the activity, because it seems like if I'm going to be the person in that sense, or gone to that place, sometimes it's going back to then, okay, then do what the teachers tell you is maybe there's something you can do as a person too, in a sense. It's going back to that place instead of like, I am consciousness and this is just not permanent, and and all that. So listening to you, I listen to you, I listen to others, and then it comes, the stillness comes, the being present, the being in the moment. In other words, not being in other words, really the realization that the truth is that the feelings and the images and the um, uh, sensations, all those are impermanent, and that's real. I mean, I know that to be the truth,
Yeah.
and that's very important, I think, because it's coming out of the fantasy of the person, and like there's a reality that's a permanent fixture structure in
Right. Right.
and it's still not trying to get out of it necessarily, but
Right.
it's just
Right.
becomes
Yes.
you know
Because, John, you see, there is the contemplation, that what you're sharing, the contemplation of impermanence, and the contemplation of
sure
that what I am is presence, is consciousness, and not any object. And there is also the other aspect of the sadhana, which is the surrender. There's also the complete openness to whatever is appearing, to be completely surrendered, meaning the being so aware of whatever tendency there is to resist or to try to think about it, how I'm feeling, or to try to justify it, or to try to maybe sweep it under the rug, or whatever forms. There are many forms of resistance in noticing the resistance and sort of relaxing around the resistance, allowing what is to be. So there is also what we refer to as the non-doing or the surrender, where we allow whatever is arising to its entire freedom, which is not so much of an allowing, it's more of a recognition that whatever is arising within a borderless space. So we can feel it, to feel, even when the mind says, oh my God, that feels awful. And that's a form of resistance that comes from the mind. Says that feels awful, I don't want to feel it. But it's there, you see. And to trust that there is something bigger than the mind. Although the mind is very powerfully saying, oh, that is awful. Why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way. And it's saying it very convincingly. That there is something more powerful than the mind. By moving closer, more openly towards whatever is arising, and to invite yourself to the complete experience of that. It's like, okay, that's what's happening. All right, I'm willing and available to live for the rest of my life with that feeling that I'm feeling right now. Not that I want it to end in 5 minutes or I want it to end tomorrow. I am ready and willing to live my entire life with that, you see.
That's a more difficult one, I think, for me, because I don't think I quite understand what that really means. Because what it means to me as a person means that I'm willing to be miserable for the rest of my life.
Well, you don't know. You don't know.
No, exactly. Yeah.
You don't know. You see,
it's a thought, it's a belief.
On one hand, the mind is saying you're going to be miserable your entire life. That's the mind story. It's always going to say that. But what you are saying is, I am completely open to it. I am completely open to it. So the mind, on one hand, meaning thoughts, are arising and saying, oh, no. Okay, I understand that. But what you are saying is, I am completely open and willing to live that, to experience that, to be that. Now, you is not the mind. When you say, I am open and willing, that's something much bigger than the mind.
Sure.
So to be open to that, okay, I'm not. It's an exploration, you see. It's a way to a direction to look into. Because we know the mind is saying no. It's hopefully it will end within an hour. Hopefully it'll end within 10 minutes.
Or it will never end.
Or it will never. Oh my God, never end. That we're familiar with. We're all familiar with that. But to contemplate that whatever is arising is arising in and as consciousness.
Yes, yes.
Because what would a feeling be, whether it's a positive feeling or a negative feeling? What would that be in the absence of consciousness, in the absence of awareness?
Yeah. Yeah. It's impossible to be that way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So whatever is arising, it's substance, it's reality, it's truth. It's
Yes.
not what the mind says.
Yes.
The mind says good and bad, good and bad.
Right.
But in our contemplation, we realize that anything that is arising, every arising, refers to its reality, and the reality of whatever is arising is
Yes.
consciousness. Because if you remove consciousness out of whatever is arising, you're left with nothing.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
to invite that understanding to not just to the good feelings, but also
Yeah.
to those situations, that the situation you described,
Sure.
so that say, okay, well, let me get closer to that. Let me see whether it is actually a boogeyman or what.
Sure.
You cannot know if you are too far, if you're running in the other direction.
Yeah. Yes.
It will remain a boogeyman
Yeah.
in the mind and in the body, in your feeling state.
Yeah.
In your feeling state, there is of course there are two things happening at the feeling state. There is, let's say, the fear or the anxiety,
Sure.
and there is the resistance to it. So there is the anxiety, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? And there is the resistance, I don't want to feel that. You say. So what if the resistance, okay, I understand we already have the anxiety, oh my God, what's going to happen to me?
Sure. Yeah.
What if rather than resisting that, you say, okay, let's see what that is. Let's see where that goes. Let's see what that let's is it possible for us to sort of get to know that more, get more familiar with it, get it to reveal more of itself.
Yeah.
Rather,
more interested. Yeah.
Rather than the oh my God, what's happening to me? That's already a resistance right there.
Yeah. And of course, what I do is go, okay, well, let me, and I think you mentioned this earlier, is let me problem solve this and project how I'm going to solve this for the future, and I mean, because that's realistic, and
Right.
but I'm of course imaging and believing I'm fantasizing a future. It just cannot be real. Okay, even if something were to occur similar to the image or the projection of it, okay, it just cannot be that image.
See, when we separate ourselves from the feeling or from the emotion, two things happen. We've objectified the emotion or the feeling, and now it's become something concrete. And we've separated ourselves as a subject. Now there is a separate me. And as soon as there is a separate me, there is the possibility of vulnerability. Something can happen to me. So when we separate ourselves, then there is a sense of vulnerability. You see. And also there is an object, there is some external reality that's coming at me. And I pray to God that it's friendly, you see. So that is the process of separating yourself. When you are trying to fight it or you're trying to to separate yourself by thinking about it, by conceptualizing it. When you're trying to conceptualizing it, you've conceptualized yourself as well. You have
Absolutely.
separated yourself as a conceptual self, conceptual
Yeah.
self. And so you're experiencing that sense of separation. And
Absolutely.
whenever there is a sense of separation, there is the impression that sooner or later, somewhere, the borders are not safe.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be defended. They need to be protected. They need to be.
Yeah. Sure.
So then the question that arises is it possible to explore the possibility? Is it possible to explore the option of being completely still as presence
Mm-hmm.
in the face of whatever is arising, and see how it goes?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a process of a live process of contemplation. It's an exploration. It's a living exploration. It's never the same.
Yeah.
You don't.
You know, I'm sorry, but when you talk about the stillness, I did become still only because I heard somebody talk about it again, and so there was a reminder, and and so there is a remembrance of the peace that's in that stillness. But when I became still, when I became very present to the reality of now, right now, this very moment, this whatever, no past, no future, no images, just what's here. Then there was a whole complete, the body just relaxed, and thoughts dissipated, and then they came back, but they dissipated for a little while and did that, and so I had the taste again of what I truly am.
Right. Yes. Yeah, it works
And
that way. We that's an important flavor tasting to have that experience of that in the midst of whatever seems to be turbulent, that there is a glimpse of a place of stillness, that possibility. And it's okay if it comes and goes, but it has value. The glimpse has value, you see.
absolutely.
And to trust that and allow that to take its process, and to be also watchful, not to judge oneself. Oh, I'm doing good, or oh God, the same old thing.
No.
To go back to the freshness of presence.
Yeah.
Period. It's like right now, this moment of friendship, of love, of peace, is to appreciate that. Period. The appreciation of presence.
The truth is, it feels like what happens is the recognition of that to be real, actually the recognition of that to be realer than the rest, automatically brings the mind and everything to a stop in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's no other, where else would I go? I'm in the real. There's no need to go anywhere else.
It's realer, and it's happy. It's happier. It's happy.
Yeah, satisfying.
Happy. You will find that peace and happiness, peace and freedom and happiness and well-being are, it's come hand in hand. So, and hey, what can beat happiness, right?
I don't know. Thank you, Magdi.
Yeah. Okay, John. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for the question. So, any question?
Magdi?
Yes, Zoe.
Oh, so a couple of satsangs ago, I think it was Richard who asked you about emotions, and you spoke about how all emotions are personal. And then I was listening to a Robert Adams tape, and he said something about when you fully awaken, you go beyond love and hate and just become silence. And sometimes I hear consciousness described as love. Can you just distinguish that for me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. So, when we speak of love and hate, we're not speaking about love, about consciousness as love. We're using the term love and hate in objectifying it. So I love this if it works for me, and I hate it if it does not work for me. I love you because you are fulfilling some of my expectations, and I hate you now because you are disappointing me. While love, let me use the term true love, is not about any conditions, about any expectations. It's not, I love you because, or I love you less, or I love you more. In love, there is no me and no you. It's, we celebrate love in the world, in our relationships. But love is not the result of relationship, doesn't depend on the relationship. It's celebrated in the relationship. But when the personal mind comes in, it divides love into its conditions. It personalizes love, and it starts to distribute love cards to certain people, and to some others we do not distribute love cards. So in our true nature, it's only love and wisdom and beauty and clarity, wholeness, presence. That's our true nature. Our true nature is seamless, borderless, aware presence. And when there are no borders, is that not love? In love, there are no borders. You see, If you look at this planet Earth, there are so many borders. And we love each other because we are both communists. And next day, we don't love each other anymore because now the other country decided to follow a different way, a different path. But in love, there are no borders. So when you contemplate, what am I? First you come to, oh, I am me and not you. But then when you contemplate a little closer, you will find that the body, this body is not that body, but the I is not the body. That requires a deeper contemplation. Once you come to that contemplation that the I is not the body, then you come to I as presence, I as consciousness, which is borderless, which has no beginning and no ending. And that which has no beginning and no ending, that has no borders, is that not love? So when there is love and hate, then love ends where hate starts, and hate ends where love starts. And those are borders. Love has borders, and on the other side of the borders is hate. That is not what consciousness is. Consciousness is borderless. And also at the body-mind level, we experience love as a personal quality. We say, oh, this person is more loving than that person. Or I used to be more loving 10 years ago, now I'm getting more and more bitter, less and less loving. So we attribute love to the person, we give it personal characteristics. So then we have different levels of love, different qualities of love, and so on, which is not what true love is. Because in consciousness, there are no borders, and there isn't a personal owner of consciousness. There isn't my consciousness versus your consciousness. It is true that there is my mind versus your mind, but that does not apply to consciousness, because consciousness is colorless and formless, while mind has colors and forms, and has a certain manifest form, while consciousness is formless and manifests as all forms. It is that one reality. So we speak of consciousness as the attributes or qualities of consciousness, being love, beauty, freedom, truth, wisdom. And these attributes of consciousness are absolute. Absolute means they have no opposite. So love has no opposite. Freedom has no opposite. Beauty has no opposite. Truth has no opposite. Wisdom has no opposite. And we have misunderstandings about these terms, the way we use them in our society. We use them in a relative way. We do not recognize the absolute quality of love, the absolute quality of freedom, the absolute quality of truth. In our society, we believe there is more freedom and less freedom. There is more love and less love. There is more beauty and less beauty. We have sort of taken the absolute qualities of consciousness and we have applied upon them our personal limitations. And so when Robert Adams is speaking about universal love as opposed to love versus hate, he's assuming, because I'm not Robert Adams, that he was speaking about love in the absolute sense as consciousness, as opposed to love-hate, which is love as it is downloaded into the human mind with its personal characteristics.
Thank you, Magdi. And thank you for what you shared earlier. I just wanted to share yesterday when I was driving, a car cut in front of me, and it was the most amazing thing to contemplate, like the anger and righteousness that rose up, as like such a quick reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And then go, wait a minute, where, what's the reality of this? And then to see, like you were saying, that 90% energy dissipation the moment I believe I'm a person,
And
or 99.9% energy dissipation.
I'm good and he or she is bad.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. And the contemplation, the world opened up like fresh and new and completely unknown. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
It just brought home how even, like you said, the conditioning will spin us for
Yes.
ever if we don't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's good to have these opportunities where somebody cuts you off in traffic because
Mm.
because it's really a simple thing, It's not like somebody stole your bank account, and for you to be able to sort of look at that, and to contemplate, all the assumptions that we make about the other, we project, and we immediately go into, the me and the him, me and the her, all of that. To just see this process in a simple situations. That's a simple. This is no big deal. It's a no big deal situation, but it allows you to see how the tendency is to go to the personal self, to objectify the other, and to objectify myself simultaneously. You see, we objectify in the separation. We objectify the other and myself, while before we are one, we objectify. To see that, and it's possible to be cut off in traffic, and to when that happens, to sort of slow down, to give the other person more room, and wish them happy trails. One could say it's a possibility. I'm not saying, hey, this is what we must do as enlightened being. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I think it's a possibility among many other possibilities. It is possible to slow down and say, oh, gee, okay, let me bless this person, on the road, may they, find the peace that they're looking for. Yeah, and to sort of slow down. And I love, like, often actually, when I'm driving, I drive quite a bit actually, to sort of, it's, you are presence, you see, your presence, and all of it is presence. So it's presence radiating into the entire space, the entire highway and the fields and all the cars and the trucks. Like, there is the blessing of presence. I'm not saying, okay, here I am blessing everybody. No, I'm not. Just to bring in the peace, because you could also get into the rat race, you see, and then you blame you're blaming the rat race, but to a certain extent, the only thing we can do about the rat race is what we're doing, what is our contribution, you see, in this very moment, in the moment of being cut off in traffic, getting cut off in traffic. What is my contribution? How am I dealing with that? How am I looking at that? Is it possible to look at that from an impersonal place? I have no freaking idea what this person is going through. I don't know. Well, and I don't need to know. And I'm not going to make a story. I don't know. I don't need to know. But I know that it is possible for me to slow down and let him go. And I know that I can also get into my entire trip about, oh, what a bad person this is. We should pull their license, blah, 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 blah. I know that I can go there and feel that, oh, well, I'm good and they're bad. But the whole thing is unhappy, see?
Yeah.
The whole thing is unhappy.
Yeah, it was just so incredible to see this seemingly tiny, insignificant thing, or what I would have called tiny and insignificant before, open up into, just that borderless aliveness when I contemplated. Thank you.
Yeah. You know what also is interesting, Zoe, is that, as we're contemplating truth over time, we find that we start to notice all these subtle. Our radar becomes more and more attuned in a way.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Very much.
Right. So it's like the filter, like the sieve. When the holes in the sieve, they used to be really big. Now they become smaller and smaller, and every little thing is you start to notice, and it frees itself, out of your body mind over. There's a process to that, but yes, it there is that less and less stuff is overlooked. Anyways, I'm glad you shared that. It's we all know this.
We all have that opportunity.
Yes, opportunity.
Thank you.
Zoe. Okay, well, everyone, thank you very much. Very lovely to be with you. We'll see you again. Happy Mother's Day to all the mamas. Okay.
Thank you, Magdi. Namaste.
Okay. Namaste. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste. Thank you.